Good morning, everybody. Welcome to Mindful Mornings. Today, the topic is obedience. Now, this is one I don't think I would have chosen on my own. Charlotte chose this one. Obedience is not something I normally think of as a virtue in life. I don't find myself to be an obedient type. I'm a Taurus. Kind of goes against my nature. I don't want to obey anybody, but I suppose it is a virtue. If you're in the military, you should obey your commander, shouldn't you? We can't have 20, 100, 1,000 people just out there making independent choices, creative choices in the moment. Nah, I think we'll do it this way. Obedience is important for children and their parents, aren't that? Isn't it? Even when the parents don't make the best choices possible, they're the ones with the wherewithal to at least make a choice that's functional in the moment. It's 3 or 4 year old. You can't go up camping with your parents and just lurch out on your own and do it your own way and invent a way through it. Your parents are the ones who know. It's unfortunate that not all parents behave in the highest manner all the time. I think they would be the first ones to regret that. But it's important for children to be obedient to their parents. It's important to some degree for employees to be obedient to their employers. If it's a really bad fit and your boss is making you do stuff that is just untenable and inappropriate and incorrect, they shouldn't be your boss, should they? But if they are, one is in service of something larger. In a company, in a corporation, in a family, you're in service of something larger and you need to be obedient to the powers that be. You might say, just like I used to, I don't need to follow anybody's rules. It's my business how I behave. And that's okay. In that case, you should be out on your own in business, doing it your own way. You should be an entrepreneur, make up your own rules, make up your own hours. That way you don't have to follow anybody's particular vision for how to do stuff. But I think the most important thing for me, and candidly, the only person, the only being that I'm obedient to, that would be God. That would be the Divine Mother, however you want to put it, that higher power up there. Hmm. I've tuned up my whole system, my whole life, my whole being to be an ambassador of that force, to be a servant of that source. And for someone like me who had a little bit of an ego to contend with, not an ego like I thought I was great, but an ego like I thought I was just a human being, 1 in 8 billion. Hmm. If I'm obedient to God, God is asking me to meditate for the moment. So I want to invite you to do the same thing. Let's just meditate. Still on the front end of the week. Coming back from vacation, coming back from a holiday, some of us. Getting back into the semi-grind until the other holidays kick in. I was feeling sleepy this morning, got up around just before 3. That's usually when I wake up to go into the world. Get up and take a cold shower. Really wasn't feeling like it today. I had promised myself and I had promised you that I would show up to do this live stream. And the reason I'm doing it, the reason we're doing it every weekday at this time is to develop some measure of discipline to be able to get up on time and launch into something of my dharma, something of my destiny, and something productive. So even though I went back to sleep a little bit and I'm feeling sleepy and groggy right now, I wanted to do this live stream because I wanted to be obedient to my vision for myself. That ultimately extends from God. Let us know in the comments who you have allegiance to, who you are obedient to. Maybe it's nobody. Maybe it's only yourself. Maybe it is your parents or boss, your partner, or God. Some of us have gone astray. And maybe if you've gone astray, then you have no one or nothing to be obedient to. You know, religion can come in and help in occasions like that. That's when people, maybe they discover their spiritual leader. Maybe they start going to church or a synagogue or mosque or temple. I think that's the thing that rubs a lot of people the wrong way about religion is I understand the spirit of it, but why are you telling me what to do? Why all the strictures? Why all the rules? Well, because I suppose some people need structure, don't they? Just like a little baby needs structure, a child needs structure. Responsible parent just doesn't just say to their 3-year-old, all right, have at it, Junior. Go out and make a way for yourself in the world. They make them live by certain rules. You got to eat dinner at the table with us 6 o'clock at night. You've got to do these chores. Take out the trash. Take out the papers in the trash. You don't get no spending cash. That's an anachronism, right? There's no papers anymore. What papers? What does that mean? Someone, young person would say, papers? Take them out? I don't know what paper is, nor why I should take it out. Chores, the discipline that comes from that. I think parents want to develop a little character in the kids. That's what they call it, right? That's what they say whenever the kid is frustrated and writhing in misery. Don't worry, Johnny. Don't worry, Judy. It's going to give you some character. When I was young, I never knew what that meant. Got to be wary. If you're like me, I like to, as I say, I like to make my own way. I like to figure things out for myself. I don't want nobody telling me what to do. You got to be careful of being too obedient, if you're that type of person. But if you are that type of person, it's going to come naturally that you're going to, you know, make your own way in the world. And there's challenges that come along with that, aren't there? You might find yourself being lonely if you don't just conform to the way everybody wants you to behave, if you're not obedient to everybody. You're in high school being obedient to the principal, to your teachers, to the popular kids, to everybody. You're just obedient, good little soldier, doing exactly what everybody expects you to do in high school. Even then, I wasn't for it. So as these clusters of people would be materializing around each other, always kind of walking around in safety of numbers, that wasn't really my bag, not only intellectually, but just physically. I didn't like to be in these big groups of people where you're triangulating against everybody, trying to decide how you're supposed to behave all the time. I'm not for it. So now you can see why when Charlotte brought this topic to me, I thought, I suppose obedience is a virtue. It sounds like a 1950s kind of virtue. It sounds like a really old school virtue. But I realized, it's not obedience to woman and man. It's obedience to God. For me, there's no power on earth. There's no one on earth who's going to call the shots in my life. That's just the way I am. Anybody tries to play thumb war with me and start getting on top, I gotta ditch that right away. Get out of here. People like to control you, don't they? I mean, they like to tell you what to do. But it's codependent. For everyone who likes to tell people what to do, there's someone who likes to be told what to do. And that's cool. I mean, I suppose when I sit up here, I give sort of recommendations about spiritual life. It might sound like I'm trying to tell somebody what to do, but I don't care. I mean, you do you. Anybody could do anybody. It's not none of my business what anybody does. So it's not about that. One thing I'd be curious about, if you want to put it in the comment field, you look at the sort of traditional virtues. Let's talk about the Christian virtues. We've covered a number of them over the last couple of weeks. What would be your favorite virtue that you'd like to look into that we haven't talked about in these Mindful Mornings live streams? Put it down in the comments and let me know why you think it's an important virtue. Maybe you have a story about how you learned that or how you applied it in your life. we'd love to pick that up for a future episode. While you're looking, feel free to glance at our other videos. We have a lot of shorts we've pulled out. Take a look at those, like and comment. We'd really appreciate it. People ask, well, how do you know what God wants you to do? It's fine if you want to be obedient to God, but how do you even get the message about what you should be doing as opposed to just the normal way of living? And I think for me, it's a long process of tuning yourself up to be a receiver for that voice, a receiver for those impulses that come from the divine. Maybe they just come from the stars, like you see behind me. Maybe they come from the Divine Mother or God. Maybe they just come from my own heart. Maybe that's all the same thing. As Ramana Maharshi says, God, Guru, and self are the same. Now that's a bit of a hard one to get your head around at first, but through experience and through meditation and through applying spiritual principles, over time you might start understanding the truth in that, what I consider the truth in that. God, Guru, and self are the same. Now, in certain Eastern traditions, Advaita Vedanta and others from India and elsewhere, they will talk about the self. They're not talking about myself, just David Scott. They're talking about the self, and that's with a capital S. The capital S self is all things and all beings. It's the oneness of all life and all being. And it radiates outward from you. Just you. That's the trippy thing that starts emerging. It's really only you here in this experience. You look at me, I'm just a mirror of yourself, right? The rest of the world is only just a mirror of you. You program the world day by day based on your own behaviors, your own attitudes, your own ways of being. You start finding out who God is and what his voice sounds like by meditating or praying. If you come from Western tradition like Christianity, maybe meditation isn't part of your bag. That's fine. Maybe prayer is. My grandma used to say, before you go to bed, I think she wanted me to kneel on the ground by my bed, put my hands up like this, and speak to God, talk to God, ask God for what you might need, ask him for what he might need from you. Tell him your troubles and cares. That's a good position to be in on your knees. Most world traditions that I know of will have the devotee down on their knees, maybe even with their head on the ground, bowing in supplication, in obedience, and humility. Why is that? Wonderful thing about it is I don't care how awesome you are as a person. You're just one in 8 billion. You could be super awesome, ego's flexing, everything's going great for you. Maybe you have a really fulfilling career and great family, and you're making a lot of money, and that's great. Riding high. You always have highs and lows, though, don't you? There's always going to be down times. There's always been going to be those times, if you're lucky, that you're brought into humility, that you're brought into the smallness of yourself and getting on your knees, praying to God. It puts you physically into better proximity to receive grace. Grace flows downhill. You ever see people sitting at a church while the preacher's up front on a stage above them, looking down? You ever see somebody in a satsang sitting on the floor, Indian style, as they look up to their teacher sitting on a tucket? They're exposing their third eye, the crown. They're exposing that by staying low, staying humble, staying receptive. That grace falls like water downhill. So if you receive the Holy Spirit from your preacher that day, or if you receive Shaktipat from your guru, that's how to position the body in the correct way to have the humility of receiving. A lot of people just want to, even if they get in the company of a holy person, they want to just run their mouth, talk about all the stuff they know, blah, blah, blah. Oh yeah, Mr. and Mrs. Guru, that's great, but blah, 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 da, 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 da. Doesn't really matter. I'm sure the guru is going to be, listen patiently, but the person's just like a baby babbling, running their mouth, trying to figure it out. Much better to just shut up. If you get in the company of your teacher, as I said in a previous episode, if you're in the company of your teacher, you will know. You'll know by how you feel. You will feel reverence and awe for the divine force that radiates from that person. I don't care what tradition it's from, if it's a woman, if it's a man, or someone in between. If they have the juice, if they have the divine force, that's what you're going to be responding to when you meet them. Not listening to a bunch of ideas and unpacking that and going, wow, that's really great. What a great worldview. I'm going to go try to apply that. That's cool if that's what they teach you and stuff. What's really the evidence that that's your teacher, or that they're a high enough being to even assume that mantle, is the light that flows through you when you're in their company. As Larry Brilliant said about Neem Karoli Baba, meeting him for the first time and spending time in his company in the late 60s, I suppose, early 70s. Neem Karoli Baba, holy man, Maharaji out of India, who may be most famous to Westerners as the guru of Steve Jobs and someone whom Mark Zuckerberg and other tech titan types were deeply interested in. He was the teacher of Ram Dass, who you might have heard of, and Krishna Das and others. Larry Brilliant said, when I sat in front of Maharaji, it was apparent that he loved everyone. no big deal. He's a saint. That's his job, right? He's supposed to love everyone. What really blew me away is when I was in front of Neem Karoli Baba, I loved everyone. And I didn't know how the mechanics of that. I didn't know how that could possibly be. That's the white light. That's the Holy Spirit. That's the Shakti. That's love. You can call it by any number of different names. Some gurus are a little tougher. It's not always lovey-dovey. Sometimes they're a little bit more pointed to call you out, maybe even hector you a little bit. People like Nisargadatta, people who come sit with him in his fourth story walk up little flat in Bombay, Mumbai, try to tuck themselves into the back corner and just listen. And he would go cajole you out of that state of passivity. He would ask you questions. Who are you? What are you doing here? Pretty soon, oh, you say, oh, well, I'm David Scott. I'm 50 years old, 49 years old. I live in the United States. I do this, that, and the other thing. And he said, that's not really you. I'm saying, who are you? And you would say, well, I'm 6 foot tall, I'm a man. I was born in America. No, I said, who are you? So he would try to put people on the spot to make them find out who they really were, not just the trappings, the labels, the names, the boxes they had put themselves in or been put in. And sometimes it takes a little force. He would kind of, rile people up, maybe even raise his voice a little. And some people like Ramana Maharshi will just sit in silence, as some chronicler described him. He's a corpse from which the divine radiates terrifically. His teachings were often in silence. You listen to a powerful sermon from someone like Billy Graham. In his older years, especially, I don't care what he said, it has the authority of the divine. Sure, I suppose he would sort of have a game plan when he went out, what he's going to talk about that day. But I got the sense that he wasn't doing a TED talk. He just regurgitating a bunch of stuff he memorized from a book. I think or just memorized. I think he was really channeling God in those sermons. And maybe you can even feel it just invoking the name of a holy man like that. Joel Osteen, coming at it from a younger perspective, coming at it from the point of view of maybe less hidebound, less rules, less rigid, less fire, less brimstone, more good feeling, uh, optimism, and a can-do attitude, a practical attitude about how to apply the ancient scriptures to modern life. And the women saints and sages often had their own special way of doing it. Unsurprisingly, it might be a little softer and a little more loving and a little less judging, no finger wagging, Amma, the hugging saint, what does she do? She doesn't sit up there and say a bunch of important stuff. She gets a long queue of people, long lines of people waiting for her darshan, the holy sight of a holy person. They come up one at a time. What does she do? She gives them a hug. That's why they call her the hugging saint. Looks in their eyes. With those eyes says, I love you. I care about you. I accept you. All your cares and worries, all your burdens that you brought in here today, don't worry about that. Put that down for a minute. Come here. Get in here. Give me a hug. Not in the mafia kind of way. Get out of here. Get in here. Get in here. Get out of here. Get over here. More just like, I'm going to hug you. It takes a lot to do that. Wow. She's not worried about disease or something like that, or something contagious coming in, or being brushed by somebody's bad energy so badly that it makes her sick. A lot of these holy people, that's what ends up happening over time. They're said to eat the karma of their devotees and eat the karma of the people around them. They're really doing the work for them in some ways. They're giving them a little advance in life, giving them 2 tickets to paradise, if you will. They said Neem Karoli Baba at the end of his life was a honeycomb of diseases. Ramana Maharshi had a horrible carcinoma on his arm that they tried to operate on and couldn't repair, and he just kind of let the body fall away in due timing. When you sit in the company of my teacher, Ganga Ma, and I've talked to you about her before, she's in the tradition of Ramana Maharshi in Tiruvannamalai, South India. It's about 4 hours west of Chennai, formerly Madras. So it's in that little that area of the country. There's no expectations. There's no need to make a donation, although I suppose they probably take them. Everything is sustained on donations, but you come in without expectation, sit there for a few minutes, before she even comes into the room. The sense of anticipation is palpable, but it's a very sweet, abiding energy in the room. You look around, make eye contact with a few people, nod at a few of your friends that you know. Some of the people that sit with her actually were former devotees of Neem Karoli Baba, also devotees of Ramana Maharshi. Some of the OGs, some of the older people from various sanghas around the world, they like to sit with her. Some people are sitting in plastic chairs along the walls. Some people are sitting on rugs down the center of the room. It's about a 800 square foot room. Some people sitting Indian style there. Some people sitting on chairs arrayed in front of Ma's chair, especially the elders. Some of her attendants standing along the walls, just making sure everything's going well. And she comes up the stairs to this second floor, beautiful space, cleanest place in Tiru, which is rather dusty and dirty as a rule. Clean, well-appointed, beautifully designed, elegant, minimal, simple, perfect. And she comes out looking at everybody silently, walks slowly. I like to say she walks about like a queen in her third trimester. Whether that's walking outside on her daily walk or circumambulating the hill, which is to say walking around Arunachala. So he comes in silently. Everyone is reverent. Most people can't help but just do this. It's just a natural reflex when you get in the company of someone holy. She slowly makes her way through. No words are exchanged. Hey, how are you, Bob? How are the kids? What's going on this weekend? Did you guys go out? None of that. None of that petty small talk. No need for it. No room for it. No benefit. Did you catch that cricket match the other day? It's not even part of her purview, not even in her world. She is in holiness, as far as I can tell, 24/7, at least when I'm seeing her. Out and about or in Sangha. She just blesses you with her presence. The feeling inside can't be described. It's simply like a feeling of completion. Like, we've got the answer. Feeling of fruition. Like, life has been leading up to just this, coming home to this. And everybody's in that sympathetic resonance. When she sits down, it's really like a queen taking her throne. Not big, large and pompous and important, just totally simple, just totally beautiful, and totally easy. And she'll sit in silence, usually for a little bit. She's the focal point. So if you're looking at anything, you're going to look at her, look around the room a little bit, just look at the awe and wonder in people's eyes. Look at the people falling automatically into meditation. Bowing to her, put their, on their knees, putting their head on the ground. That's where we belong when we're in the company of the Most High. We belong on our knees with our head on the ground, being obedient in that moment to whatever arises from the source of that divinity, in this case, Ganga Ma. If you go practice what your pastor tells you to do, and she or he will tell you what to do. They don't mind. Most Christian ministers, most Christian preachers, they'll say, here's what you do. Could be based on the 10 Commandments in particular, could be based on a particular Bible passage or many. They'll say, this is how we have a life well lived. This is how we comport ourselves. This is how we go about life. Listen to them and apply it. as best you can. Let's say go out in the world this week. I want you to be mindful of your sinning. I want you to listen to that still small voice of God come in when you're about to sin, when you're about to smoke that cigarette, take that drink of alcohol if you're trying to quit, take that drug, perform that forbidden act, all the sinning type stuff. You know when you're sinning, don't you? Everybody does. Even the lowest dog knows when they sin. They'll come up with their tail between their legs. They know it. They know they ate the Oreos. You don't have to tell them. You don't have to put the bag in their face. They know. They know they shouldn't have been in there. They know when they peed on the couch. You don't have to go rub their nose in it. They know, because you'll tell by their body language. They knew that they have sinned. So your minister will say, whenever you have that temptation to rise this week, I want you to ask God for the courage to say no. That's what I want you to do. When they tell you to do something, do it. Be obedient. If you're not obedient to your preacher, your teacher, your leader, if you're not obedient to them, what's the point of going and seeing them in the first place? You got to apply their words in your life, don't you? It's not just about listening on Sundays, or in some people's case, once or twice a year, Easter and Christmas, if that. It's not about that. It's about how you apply it in your life. They'll give you the roadmap. They'll show you the 10 commandments. Boom, there's 5. Boom, there's the others. 2 big tablets carved in stone. You talk about our modern life. Oh, nothing's set in stone. It's loosey-goosey. Make your own rules. No problem. That's fine. Biblical commandments, those are literally set in stone. They're typeset, carved into stone. Thou shalt not kill. Thou shalt not steal. I'm not going to trot them out now. I don't think I can even remember all of them. But every one of those sins, they leave a mar on your life. In Eastern terms, you talk about karma. They leave a mar on your karma. And you've got to work double time later on to repent for that, to repent for those sins. If you're in the company of your preacher, maybe in a breakout session, maybe you're in Sunday school, and he or she says, God forgives you for your sins. Can you forgive yourself? Listen. Take that to heart. Be obedient. In that wisdom, receive that wisdom. Obedience isn't just what you do, it's how you behave and how you be. When he says, don't covet your neighbor's stuff, don't look at the Joneses and try to keep up with them. Don't covet what's not your own. Listen. Thou shalt have no other gods before me. This is not just a way for Christians to rope you in and keep you into the Christian vision of God. This is a commandment from God. Thou shalt have no other gods before me. There can only be one. You say, well, I'm in a polytheistic tradition. I believe in many gods. That's fine, but those are secondary forces, aren't they? They are parts of a whole. Islam, they say the same thing. There is no God but God. Find that oneness, find that God in your own heart. There's only one, and you're that. Thou shalt not make unto thee any graven image. Don't be worshiping anything more than God. Don't worship your Bugatti and your cigar and your yacht that you rented. Not even the rules of man or your family are higher than the Most High God. Thou shalt not take the name of the Lord thy God in vain. The GD word, that's a rough one. We're really used to saying that, no problem. Something goes wrong, I'll learn it. That's really bad. You're asking the highest of the high to condemn, to damn this thing, this event, this person. Wow, that's bad. Because that thing, that event, that person, that's you, isn't it? It's just a reflection of you. It's an extension of you. I think most people find in their spiritual practice eventually that there are no others. Everything that they see is only a manifestation of themselves, and they drive all the blame back to themselves. Drive all blames back to one, as Pema Chodron talks about, as the Buddhist tradition talks about. And in that oneness, if I'm damning, if I'm condemning, it's very hard for me to even say that word. I'm just saying it clinically and scholastically, not with the force of anger and aggression and resentment that some people use that phrase with. Really bad. Even the other curse words. You're cursing the world. Think about that. You're like a black magic voodoo priest or priestess saying, you're putting a curse on somebody. If you're cursing the world, that's what you're doing, isn't it? You're cursing everything around you. Now everything's going to be crummy. You can be surprised that everything's crummy because you cursed it. Don't do that. I do my best not to use curse words. I get in the habit sometimes, not aggressively and angrily, but you just use the bandy around the F word, the S word, the different ones. I've really tried to make a concerted effort not to do that, even in my own mind, because it, like attracts like, and it leads to more of the same, that kind of cursing. The fourth commandment, remember the Sabbath day to keep it holy. It means doing our best to remember him throughout the day. Maybe that's Jesus. Maybe that's Ramana Maharshi. Maybe that's some of the other figures that we've talked about, Muhammad or the Buddha. You don't have any work to do, maybe on that day. You can just spend the whole day basking and bathing in the light of God, remembering his holy name, remembering your teacher, who's an exemplar of that God. Christianity, we remember Jesus, we think about Jesus, we meditate on him, we try to become like him. You keep saying his name enough, you're going to become more and more like him, aren't you? The fifth commandment, it really is tied into our theme today, and that's honor thy father and thy mother. That might be hard for some people who grew up in an abusive situation. Maybe your father and mother weren't so hot. Maybe mom drank, dad knocked you around, or vice versa. Honor your father and mother, be obedient to them, at least to the point where, you know, you're into your teens and you're starting to make your way in the world. You're starting to figure yourself out. You're starting to want to differentiate and go your own way. That's fine. That's natural. Maybe even natural to develop a little bit of resentment and anger so that you can have an excuse to go off and be on your own and differentiate a little bit. That's natural. But always honor them. Don't curse them. Oh, no. Take care of them when you can. Number 6 and 8, maybe the most famous, thou shalt not kill and thou shalt not steal. Those are pretty basic. If you kill somebody, you are really on a different plane now. I see people walking around. It's more and more common to have open carry or concealed carry, walking around with a handgun. People think that they need to protect themselves and their family, and that's cool if that's how they feel. And I've done that in the past too. I find that like does attract like. I find that you actually magnetize the energy of violence more if you are carrying around the implements of violence. You may be getting yourself into some stickier situations than you ever would if you didn't carry. The thing that really bothers me is when people don't get their hunter's safety card, they don't take classes, they don't get out to the range and practice. They just hope that they're going to be able to wing it if some problem arises and some robber comes into the store. Sitting in Taco Bell, think about this. You're sitting in Taco Bell, carrying like a big, strong person. I'm going to protect everybody. Some woe-begotten person comes in, someone who's gone astray. They feel like they want to go rob that cash register, grab some quick cash. They need the money. Maybe pick up a quick green chili burrito on their way out. Little nibble between larcenies. They walk in, you get wind of what's going on over there. You start saying, oh, he's trying to rob the cash register. I'm going to shoot him. I want to be a big man or woman. I want to shoot him. Bam! Right in the head. Lay him out. Dead. Why did you do that? You killed a human being because they tried to get 20, 30, 50 bucks off a register? Oh, well, that's the right thing. They were bad. I'm good. I do good things. They do bad things. I kill. If somebody comes in guns a-blazing and they start shooting up the place, yeah, you've got good call to take them out as soon as you possibly can by any means necessary. That's defending your community. That's fine. But most people I'm talking about, I'm not talking about the vigilantes who really train well, know how to use a gun, clean it, maintain it, go out to the range and shoot, maintain their skills, and become good at it. Those people, we respect them, we like them. They're our protectors. Good for you guys and gals. Ones I'm talking about are the ones that are the vigilantes who just want to go swagger around and bluster and show off their gun, flash their piece, makes them tough. They're the first ones to go off half-cocked when something goes wrong. Say you miss that person because you're not schooled enough, you haven't been to the range, you haven't even been practicing, you don't even know how to wield that thing. You just saw it on some episode of Have Gun Will Travel. Now I'm really dating myself. Whatever shows people watch where people wield guns in that way these days, use that as an example. Not something from the 1950s. Something more relevant, maybe. That's up to you. They try to take that bandit out who's stealing $43.29 from the register. Blap. They accidentally hit some 12-year-old little boy in the spine and paralyze him or kill him. You're going to be living with that every moment of your life for the rest of your life and future lives as well. If you continue to reincarnate here, if you believe in that, you are going to baste and suffer in misery of what you caused that family, what you did to them, what you did to their community, because you went off like a mercenary and tried to swagger around and show how tough you are. I'll save the day. Oops, sorry about that. Think about that. Even if you kill a bad guy, oh, that's just a bad guy. He's just an NPC in a video game. He doesn't matter. He does matter. He's your fellow man. He's you. He's your brother. What if you kill him? You think he doesn't have family and friends? They're going to be after you for the rest of your life? You're going to be tied up in court proceedings and you're emotionally and spiritually locked in darkness for the rest of your life because of what you did taking that person out. Be very careful when you make that decision to swagger out into the world and bluster around like that. Take somebody out. Thou shalt not kill. Don't be doing that. The obverse of that is what the kid should have listened to in the first place when he went in there, the guy that you shot. Well, you didn't do it, but somebody did. Thou shalt not steal. He didn't listen to that when he drove past that Taco Bell. Dooms, da-doom, doom, dooms, da-doom, doom, thinking, creeping that car up into the parking lot, backing in so you can make a quick escape. I'm going to go get me $53.27. I don't care how I have to do it. Take it right out of that register. Don't have to earn it. I'll just steal it. I'm entitled. Somebody else has to make that. Some other chump will make it, and I'll just go steal it from him or her. That's great. You take something that doesn't belong to you, it's going to be some bad karma, isn't it? It's going to create a vacuum into which bad energy and bad luck is drawn. That's how it goes. I said in another satsang earlier, don't you notice that people who are going around making a living by taking stuff from people, by selling hardcore bad drugs to people that are killing them, by stealing stuff, burglarizing, by killing, they make a living doing that? They don't have much of a living at all, do they? Someone like El Chapo, you look and go, wow, I suppose it's easy to judge. Look at this man who's done X, Y, and Z. That's a human being. He doesn't deserve to die at my hands, at anybody's hands. That's how I feel. I'm not for this death penalty thing. If thou shalt not kill, then thou shalt not kill. I don't care if you're the warden of a jail or whoever it is that kills people for give them the death penalty for something. But people who live life of banditry, in my experience, in my observation, don't have a very comfortable life. Even if you hit the heights of that, you're really always looking over your shoulder, living in anxiety and fear that you're going to get caught. That's a good one to stay away from. Thou shalt not commit adultery. We're in a pretty lax age when it comes to sexuality and relationships. I don't really have a strong opinion about that one way or the other, but I think most people would say that it's beneficial to have a strong family unit, however that family is composed, and to honor that. Thou shalt not bear false witness against thy neighbor. Don't be making stuff up. Live in honor, live in integrity, not only for the neighbor's sake, for your sake. And thou shalt not covet. Going around hating on people, being jealous because they got something you need, you feel like you want. These commandments have stood the test of time. They've endured. They stay with us. Every religion has some form or fashion of these scriptures, these strictures, these rules. People need that. They need to know, they need some sort of bearing, some sort of compass. This provides that. And that's cool. Whoever it is you're obedient today, whoever it is you're obedient to today, whether that be your partner, your spouse, your parents, your boss, your leader, or God, be grateful for the opportunity to be led into the pasture, into the promised land by our great teachers, by our great saints and sages from all the world traditions. Be grateful for the opportunity to listen to the word of God, to be able to get silent in the morning in prayer or meditation, ask God what you want, and listen to his response. God is for you, and so am I.